This is the Business Storytelling Show, a top global marketing podcast listened to in more than 100 countries, live streamed on social media, and broadcast on DBTV. Christoph Trappe chats with industry leaders to help your company tell better business stories. Here's today's episode.
Hey, business storytellers. How's everyone doing? Episode 671 on deck here. We're moving right along. We're talking to John Horn of StubGroup today about high return advertising. So advertising is always an interesting topic to me because you know what? Sometimes it is just annoying. It's just in my face. It's just there. It's not relevant. Ugh, get out of my face. Why do I have to even pay attention to you? But we know that good advertising works. Dare I say, great advertising entertains? I don't know if John's going to agree with that, but sometimes it certainly does. But let's find out, what is a high return ad campaign? How do you make it work? And what are the different pieces when it comes to the different channels? John, hey, welcome to the show.
Christoph, great to see you.
Nice to see you. Really appreciate you coming on. And advertising is a topic we talk about, but we don't talk about it all the time. So I'm always interested to hear what is like the latest thing, what's the newest thing. And also, one question I do not like people asking me, what are like the industry benchmarks? What is a high return campaign? Like, how do you even define that? Let's start there. Do you hate or love that question?
There's a facet of the question I love and a facet I hate. So I love it when clients come to us and say, okay, we want to achieve a certain return. Can you achieve this return? We want a high return campaign. That's awesome. The challenge is when they come to us and say, what should our return be? Because it is going to be completely different for every business. It's going to depend upon your margins. If you're in a commerce business selling products, okay, what's your profit margin? What's your overhead? A high return campaign for one business may be losing money hand over fist for another business. So to your point, Christoph, about benchmarks, it's really not about benchmarks, especially on the return side of things. It's about understanding your business and figuring out what can you afford to pay to acquire a customer, to sell a product, factoring in things like the lifetime value, your sales cycle, conversion rates, all the fun data that goes into that. And then that dictates what a high, a medium, or a bad return is for your specific business.
So, what's interesting to me is like when I hear you talk about that, I was like, that is not my area of expertise at all. But to me, it seems like that there's all kinds of people. They're experts at advertising. They're expert at writing blogs. They're experts at podcasting, but they don't do any of those things. But they have a fancy title and they think they know because they know. But it's actually really complicated, right? So how do you know? I mean, we don't want to overstate it, but it is complicated because back in the day, even when it comes to writing, I would just write, and who would decide if it's good or not? Whoever, sometimes just me. But today I got numbers on everything. I can tell you what's working, what's not working, what headline has a better chance to perform, what headline doesn't. So how do you even start figuring that out? So if you're a company and you got to know all those things, like, do you have to have somebody internal, external, partnership? What's the best way to make it work?
Fantastic question. So really it starts not on the advertising side of things, but on the business number side of things. I'll give a couple of real life examples that come up recently for us. So we have a client there in the e-commerce space and they figured out, okay, here's, return on ad spend that would be profitable for us based upon our margins. So we know for each product that we sell, we know roughly what percentage of that is cost of goods sold that they have to pay to actually manufacture that product and how much is profit. And so we had a target that they gave us. I think it was 2.5x was their goal. And so we were achieving that and things were good. But then they realized, well, look, in order to achieve this number, our volume of sales has come down to the point where our overhead is high enough to where we're actually not making any profit, because like on a per product basis, we're making profit. But then when you factor in the overhead of, salaries and location, real estate, stuff like that, then suddenly they're losing money. And so that's why you always, as a business, have to be understanding your own numbers, figuring out, okay, what's our overhead? What are we going to have to pay each month, regardless of how much we sell? And then what's that variable cost? What costs increase when we sell more, whether that be purchasing more product to sell, hiring more salespeople, or hiring more, if you're a plumber, you have to hire more people to go out and fix faucets, whatever the case may be. So trying to really understand those numbers, overhead and variable, and then figure out based upon those, again, what is a good return, and are there different levels of return? Because you might say, hey, based upon our overhead, we have to earn at least this amount of money to cover our overhead, and then we kind of get into the marginal variable, cost side of things above that. So to answer your specific question, Christoph, ideally, each business, they need to understand those things, but often becomes a conversation as well with partners like StubGroup, who can help them think through those things, maybe bring a fresh perspective, ask them questions in a different way, and help them come up with what some of those numbers look like.
The one thing that's interesting to me is like when I just heard you talk about the overhead and all these different things and how much you have to pay people and technology and all this, then you have people who want a certain amount of money, and that doesn't consider that what you just mentioned at all, right? Because they're just considering what they want, what they need, or what they think they're worth. So that's probably a whole nother episode, unless you want to go down that rabbit hole. But that's kind of what crossed my mind. Now, how when it comes to advertising, how do you think about whether or not advertising even is for you? Is it for any business? Who should do it? And then, what channels? What businesses are most likely to see success from running ads?
Yeah, so a lot of my perspective is definitely going to be biased towards the digital advertising side of things, because that's where my expertise, my company's expertise is focused. So specifically, we're talking about platforms like Google Ads and Facebook Ads, really places where people spend their time online, and then companies want to connect with potential customers through those channels. If it's Google search, hey, I'm searching to buy something, and then a company can say, hey, we sell this, come check it out. Or if it's something like Facebook or Instagram, it's saying, hey, you have similar demographics and psychographics to our other customers. We think you might be interested in this widget or this service. And the beauty of that type of advertising is that by and large, it's a lot more trackable than more traditional advertising, in that you can have a lot of data about, okay, which messages are working. Are people getting to our website? Are they converting on our website? Meaning, are they taking the actions we want them to take? Purchasing products through the website, filling out a form, calling us, things like that. And so for the campaigns we run, part of saying, a high return campaign is, all right, tracking as much as possible what's happening after people are clicking on our ads and going to our client's website and engaging with them. And then what's the return that is coming from that? But I think to speak to your more specific question, how do you know if advertising is right for you as a business? I think there's a couple of categories of where a business is at, where advertising can be particularly helpful. So one can be in proof of concept. If you are, a brand new business and you don't have any exposure in the marketplace, you don't even know maybe if people are interested in your product, your service, if your price points are right, etc. Advertising can be an effective way of shortcutting answering those questions, of getting leads in the door, of seeing whether or not people are responsive to your messaging and whether or not you have a viable product and what you can sell it for and so forth. Now, it's not going to be cheap, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes doing that, because you don't know what works until you try it. So it's not for every business, but it's for businesses who say, okay, I can afford to invest a decent amount into advertising to kind of prove concept of my product. Then it's also really good for businesses that have good processes and products and things figured out and want to pour fuel on that. So, maybe, hey, I've got good word of mouth stuff coming in. I've got good organic rankings, whatever, but I want more business. I want to scale. I need to communicate my message, my brand to more people. Advertising is a great way of doing that. The place where advertising is really challenging is for those businesses that are already struggling. They don't have the right processes. They're not handling their leads right or their customers right. They don't have the right, product market fit. And they think advertising is a magic bullet to solve all those problems. And they can just throw money at the wall and that's going to work. And again, advertising is fuel for the fire. And if the fire is burning down your business, you throw more fuel in that, it's just going to burn down faster. And so you have to be really, again, cognizant of your business numbers and what are you going to do with hopefully the leads, the traffic, the customers that advertising generates for you to turn that into those high return campaigns.
Well, John Horn just earned a spot in my continuous book of people that are going to be quoting. Ads are like fuel, right? So if the fire is burning down the house, it's just going to add to that mess. Very, very interesting to kind of think about it that way, quite frankly. So I know we talk about the ad creative a little bit. Like, I mean, it's kind of embedded there. But so let's say you actually have a good ad and you get people to go to your website, but you're not in charge of the website. Somebody else is, right? You know exactly where we're going with this already, right? And the ad is great. People click it over, but the website is horrible. People don't even know how to fill out the form. The form doesn't work on an iPad, but 30% of my visitors come on an iPad. Whatever, right? Like, it's a horrible experience for one reason or another. How do you maneuver those politics or whatever is behind those kind of issues?
It's a challenge and a real problem, and you hit it nail or dead on, as they say. You can have the best ad in the world, but most of the time that people are going to spend deciding whether or not to do what you want them to do is actually going to be on the place they get to from your ad. It's going to be on your website, where you can share more information and allow them to take the action you want them to take. So our best partnerships with clients are where they are very open to our feedback, and it's a two-way street. And we're constantly saying, hey, what if we try this on your landing page? Or, hey, this is broken. Can you fix it? There's tools that you can use. We use things like Microsoft Clarity, which is a free tool that basically watches how people use a website and records those sessions. And you can see, oh, hey, people are clicking on this button, but this button doesn't work. Or they're scrolling up and down your page. They're looking for information you're not providing, things like that. And then we provide that feedback and ideas to our clients, and sometimes help them with the actual design of landing pages as well. But it's not a one and done thing. We have a client we're working with right now. I was just on the phone with them a little while ago, and we realized we're just kind of testing things on their website. Like, hey, did you know that when you add this product to your shopping cart, you're adding like an $850 shipping and handling fee to it, and the product is $59? And they're like, oh, I had no idea. We should go change that, because that would make sense why people aren't purchasing that. So there's always things breaking and things changing on websites. And so something that needs to be constantly monitored, watched. And if you see things like conversion rates dropping on your ads, it might not mean the ad is not working anymore. It might be that form is broken on the iPad. And so you got to go check it out and dig in and see where is that conversion rate changing.
And why is it changing? It's just so interesting how, I mean, but at least today you can measure things, right? You don't just have to guess. Back in the olden days, you'd be like, oh, maybe it was because of this. If you did billboards, maybe it was like, oh, because we had a snowstorm and people weren't driving on that side of the interstate for 2 days. Like you have to guess almost. Now you can measure things. When it comes to ad creative or ad design, whatever the right term is nowadays, are text ads performing better? Images, whatever you call them, animations? Like, what would you say is like what should people try?
I'd say it very much depends on the platform. So Google search, for example, most of that's going to be text ads with a few image assets you can add. So text is still, largely king when it comes to Google search. Now, if you're talking about Facebook and Instagram and those types of paid social platforms, that's where you have the most options, the most variety of types of ads you can serve. And I'd say, generally speaking, these days, video is king. Not to say there's not outliers. We certainly see, text and image ads that perform very well on those platforms as well. But generally speaking, people are very much interested in video, engaging video. That's what captures people's attention. And so most of our, best campaigns that we run on those types of platforms leverage video. And of course, YouTube also is a great platform for advertising and is exclusively video. So not really options there, but video is king on most places outside of just, Google search and the text ads that pop up.
I mean, we could go down the Google search rabbit hole if you like to in a minute. We can do that, but let's talk about video for a minute, because video is kind of interesting to me. I'm on YouTube and I'm looking through YouTube, but I'm really not looking through video, right? I'm looking through thumbnails. And now I just recently blogged about that over on ChristopHTrappe.com, how you can test three different thumbnails very, very easily, quite frankly. I don't know if that's new or maybe I just got it. I don't know. But so like what's a good video ad? I mean, is it the thumbnail? Does it autoplay? Is that important? And if it autoplays, what should it show to draw people in? Or like what makes a good video ad?
Yeah, the cool thing with YouTube is you can have different types of video ads, different placements. So you've got those in-feed ads, which is what you're describing, where you're, let's say you're looking through your YouTube home, or maybe you do a search for something and you see an ad thumbnail come up. And the goal for that is, or the call to action for that is actually tapping to watch that video. And so you're absolutely right. The thumbnail is incredibly important, and the title of the ad. You want something that is, eye-catching, something that is relevant to what they're searching for, or if it's on your home feed, relevant to what the person may be interested in. It's a little bit different for in-stream ads, which are when you're already watching a YouTube video and they make you watch an ad before you watch the video. Their thumbnail really isn't important because you're not seeing a thumbnail as a user. You're just seeing this interrupting content. And there, what's really important is those first 5 seconds of those videos, because that's the amount of time that you have to watch the video before you can skip it. And so you want to communicate who you are in your message in those first 5 seconds, because most people are going to skip. And if you haven't, if you're waiting until the end of your video ad for the grand reveal, well, you're missing out on a bunch of free branding because you haven't told people who you are before they can click on the skip button. And then you also, you want to hook them. You want to engage them and explain why they should keep watching after that 5-second mark instead of watching what they wanted to watch when your ad came up. And then shorts, similar. You're flipping through shorts, and you're going to see different page shorts come through. Again, engaging, just like any short. It's what's going to immediately capture people and make them not make that split-second decision of, oh, looks boring, move on, but actually stay there and watch the content you've created for them.
What's interesting about that answer? I mean, plenty of things are interesting, but the one thing that's really standing out to me is, I don't really do any ad campaigns too often, but I can totally see somebody being in a conference room or on Zoom or whatever, and they'll go, "Hey, VP of marketing, we got to do some ads on YouTube. Talk to whoever, and like they already know." But I think you mentioned like 82 different versions of ads on YouTube right there, right in that one sentence. So it's like, you can't, like, when people say, it drives me crazy when people say, "Oh, we got to do some ads on YouTube." Like, I'm like, what's the goal? What are you trying to do? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, who are you trying to reach? Why? What are the assets? Right. So like my podcast, great show. You're another fantastic guest, 670 first guest, definitely not number 671. Definitely up higher. Fantastic discussion. But we're not going to use us just talking as an ad, right? Like that people watch maybe on mute for a second. So even though we like it, but it might not be the best thing, or maybe it is. You tell me. But how do you figure out what is actually the right format? How do you start? And I know people want to say, "Hey, just start with a goal." Like that's what I said. But like, is it really that simple? And you just have to get people on track, or how do you get it? How do you get people wrangled in?
To some extent, start with a goal, like you said. Kind of what we like to say to clients is, let's define success. What does success look like to you? It's not just running ads on YouTube. We could run any ad on YouTube, and that's easy enough. It's, okay, I'm trying to get people, direct customers from my video ads, or hey, I'm trying to create awareness, kind of get people into my pipeline or educate them about what our business does. So really understanding ultimately what is the goal is step one. And then thinking through what are the different creative ways that we can accomplish this. And it's usually not just going to be, okay, one video, we make the perfect video from day one, and that's the only thing we do moving forward. You've got to see how people react to different types of content, different approaches, different lengths. And so testing is really key in all of advertising, but definitely on the video side of things. So it's, okay, what if we do 30-second video ads? What if we do a minute 30-second video ads where we are able to share more information? And what if we do shorts that are kind of maybe high level, getting people aware of our brand, and then we see, oh, if they watched our short, great, now let's show them a longer form piece of content because they were interested enough to watch the short. So now maybe this person's interested enough to watch the longer form, and you can kind of sequence people and create a funnel within YouTube to push them through your content to more bottom funnel location where they'd be interested in actually taking the action you want them to do. So I don't know, how direct that answer is to the question that you asked, but it's a lot of things with what is success, with what is a creative strategy, the actual content strategy that we can use, and then very much data and testing and seeing what are people engaging with and what happens after that.
You know, what I just thought about that is what's interesting about your answer and just like this whole discussion about like strategy versus like what's the goal, what's the point, how do we do it, what's available, how's it changing? I mean, stuff changes all the time too, right? I mean, I remember even the days like, I mean, it was so easy all of a sudden to do YouTube short videos, right? You had these YouTube shorts, they had like 30,000 organic views, and then you run some ad, like it's super easy to set up on that same short, and all of a sudden it's like blowing up. I mean, why wouldn't you do that if it fits within what you're trying to do? But what I also find is, and I like to talk, certainly, but where's that right line of what to share with your stakeholders, what to share with people? And do you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to oversimplify it too much, but you also don't want to go so far down in the weeds that the ice glaze over, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. I think a lot of that comes down to getting to know and understand who those stakeholders are, because everyone's in a very different situation. You know, we have clients who they don't care a little bit about the way that things are accomplished. All they care about is results. Like, okay, hey, are the numbers up or down? Are we making more money or less money? And they want reporting, want to have conversations at that level, and they trust us as the experts to do the groundwork that needs to be done to accomplish those goals. You have other clients who are, you know, paranoid about the details. They want to know every single thing. They want to understand how it works. And so I think a lot of good, you know, client management in our business of working with clients is getting to know what those preferences are, and also getting to understand where can we potentially accidentally trip up our clients. You know, if we share too much granular information, it may just become an unproductive conversation because the client's getting caught up on metrics that really don't matter to the end result of their campaigns. But because we brought it up, they're focused on that. And so it's that balance of being transparent, sharing, you know, everything with the client, making sure we're all on the same page and team, but also not overwhelming them with information to the point where you're not having productive conversations and you're not moving forward their business goals because you're spending all your time talking about things that aren't really going to impact the big numbers.
This is so interesting because stuff gets more and more complicated. I mean, every time I turn around, I'm seeing something. I was like, oh, what? Why is there 12 steps that I have to take now to do this thing I used to be able to do in one? Or, you know what I mean? Like, why is this not working? It was like a home run the last 3 times I did it. So very, very interesting. Really appreciate you coming on the show, John. And like really quickly, 30 seconds, tell us who should reach out to you? Who are your perfect clients, so to speak?
Yeah. So if you are watching this, you're a business, whether that be selling products online or services, SaaS, really whatever. We work with a wide variety of types of businesses, and you're either running advertising right now, paid search and paid social, and you want help, or you're wanting to decide, hey, is this the right move for me? Am I in a good fit for this? I'd love for you to reach out to us through StubGroup.com. Our team will chat with you and see if we're a good fit to help.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And we're out.
Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review the Business Storytelling Show on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe